It's a very good point you make. There's about who do you talk to? What kind of relationships do you have after you found out the true nature of life? Because it does change things, doesn't it? It does.
Oh yes.
There is that, and I know that both you, I, and Alan are in agreement. There is this aloneness, this sense of aloneness, where you're not lonely at all. Loneliness depends upon the idea of a separate self, doesn't it?
And it implies in some sort of emotion or whatever that's just not there.
But you are transformed. There has been this quiet revolution, this psychological revolution that's taken place. You have, as it were, entered into a different universe. Or rather, you're now in the universe as it really is, and everyone else is in this. And it's not easy, is it? It's
no, and I mean, I live out there in the mundane world, as it were, and I think that's when I first completed the task, and that last sort of vestige of self disappears completely. And so all self-concern and everything, actually it just made me so aware of everybody else's self-concern, and it was almost overwhelming. And I think that's why I sort of obviously stopped doing the Vipassana and went straight into the metta, because I felt that that there was this clarity and love that I seen for myself, or however, I don't know how you put it into words, who does, yeah. But I felt that I was just could be like a conduit between that, and just wanted to sort of, I suppose, throw all that metta out there, just to, I don't know. I mean, I'm a big believer in metta. I think that just because you can't see it doesn't mean nothing's happening.
Exactly. I mean, they say, I don't know who they are, but they say that in terms of our overall communication, the spoken word only accounts for something like 7%.
Yeah.
So what accounts for, what about the other 93%?
Yes.
And so much of it is on the mental level, which is, irrespective of what somebody says, their true communication is coming through their bodily communication, their verbal communications in that way. And so the culture of somebody's mind is hugely important in what is communicated. It's the most important thing. And and I've said it before, not every enlightened person has either the ability or the wish to teach, but any enlightened being at all has a massive influence, an unspoken influence. Like the spoken word is really the only 7% of it. It's what else is going on. And so the enlightened mind is coming into contact with the enlightened mind. Well, it can go to one or two ways for the unenlightened mind. They can be positively enhanced by it, but if they become judgmental towards the enlightened being, then that's like throwing fine dust into an oncoming breeze. It's just going to go back all over them.
Yeah.
And but no, the enlightened mind has no longer got that bias, that distortion that's created by the mistaken belief in their own separateness. So the mind is clear, it's clean, it's got clarity, it hasn't got that self-concern, it's therefore a hugely positive influence in the world.
I didn't have the self-concern, and also more and more I find that there's more clarity when I'm listening to someone, or just watching. You can see I'm going to say untruthfulness going on, although they're probably not aware of that, but just you can see that reality is being ignored, and there's just this layer upon layer of making it up.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Speculative views.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you don't have any of that yourself, it just becomes very clear
absolutely.
with other people.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's not something you can really talk to anybody other because that's
but what
they don't know.
Yeah, what are you going to do? I mean,
Well,
I've walked into shops and detected immediately that the shop assistant is really unhappy or pissed off, or whatever it happens to be, and I kind of want to say, what's the matter with you? But they don't know that I can see that.
I know, and that would be too disconcerting to say to someone anyway, because
no, you just don't do it. You've got no, and there's no desire to. I mean, there's the understanding of what's going on, but there's also the appreciation that it's not your place and it's not the time.
No.
Me as a teacher, I know that's the wonder of having a meditation centre. I don't have to go out looking for people.
Yes.
There's no proselytising. If people are interested, they come along here.
Find you. Yeah.
And because the context is right here, and so it can be done here. And as I was saying in a talk I gave a few weeks ago, the Sangha is a compassionate space. It's a space where actually people do understand, and they probably know better than you what is wrong and what is causing your distress. So coming on retreat here is, it's difficult, it's not easy, but it is a place that's set up along the right lines with the right understanding underlying it. So it is a compassionate space for people to come into, where they can begin to look at what's going on. But yeah, you can't. You have to retain that, and you do naturally after you finish the training, that equanimity, which acknowledges the fact that people fare on according to their deeds. The path to freedom is available, but someone's got to reflect wisely in order to take it.
Yes.
So the world spins as it must.
No, I can see that. Of course, I suppose my reaction is not to do anything about it, but I suppose it's just the compassion, and again, it's another meditation that I do is compassion, along with the metta.
Compassion is the recognition of the suffering inherent in life and the suffering that beings going through, and wishing that beings be free of that suffering.
Yes.
To round it off, you also have sympathetic joy, which is taking joy in the spiritual development that anyone goes through. So it's out of suffering that causes someone to reflect and perhaps change the way they do things, and that sympathetic joy is taking delight and joy in their development in that way. And then it's rounded off with that equanimity, which says, I can't make them enlightened. No. All I can do is help create positive supporting conditions that might allow someone to take advantage of that to free themselves from suffering. You've done it, I've done it. Yes. Many people have done it. And then you've got this, I think, this really wise and intelligent approach which allows people to suffer. But it puts it in a context which knows that if they want, they can come out of it. Perhaps they need the necessary information, which is why we do things like videos and books and websites and things. They need to know that the possibility is there. Then it's up to somebody to do something about it. But you can't. How are you going to force somebody? It's not very compassionate to say, you must change.
Drag them in off the street. No. No, but this centre, coming on retreat, is it's just precious, because it takes away, or it gives the right conditions that you're saying, supporting conditions, to have a really good look at what's going on, if that's what you want to do.
So much, that thing of, we're going on a retreat.
I know.
Lovely, no worries for a week, just be able to chill out.
I know. And in the end, I just sort of agree because it's too difficult to say to people, actually, it's really hard work and it's tough. So I just, in the end, used to just agree with people. So yeah, it'd be a good week.
It's like that thing when people say, "Oh, meditation is just you're just trying to escape reality."
Yeah.
And in one sense, they're right.
Yes.
And in another sense, they're completely wrong.
Define reality, I suppose.
Yeah, it's the other way around. It's that
Yeah.
you're no longer trying to distract yourself, but you're actually looking at what the problem has been the whole time. And but as a result of that, yeah, you escape suffering.
Yes.
You have to be prepared to look at your suffering. That's the bottom line, which is why retreats are taxing and difficult. Why meditation is difficult.
It's funny because on the first retreat I came in, it was just awful, and I went home and I said, "Don't ever let me do that again." But I think for me, there were people here who knew things that I wanted to know, and I felt quite determined about that. And I know I've said this to you before, but when I first came, I just came because I thought it was interesting and it was like a hobby almost. And then I just had this very clear insight that actually, no, I could do this with the help that's here. And I don't think I really ever gave up on that. There was lots of times it was very, very hard, but it was that. I just thought, you, Paul, you know something that I want to know. And I really believed I could do it.
You have to have determination, you have to have courage, you have to have perseverance and persistence, but you also have to have, imagination is not quite the right word, inspiration. I think it's so important that the whole notion of enlightenment isn't placed on such a high pedestal that it is impossible to achieve in someone's perception. They perceive it as being, because you bow, you do your chants, you raise it up to being this holier than holy achievement, when in actual fact it is common as muck. it's reality. It's just reality, and you don't have to be this pious, sort of remote, holier than holy Joe. You can just be normal. Well, there's no normal, but you can.
Yeah.
It's about sights and sounds and tastes and touches and smells. It's about thoughts and feelings, perceptions. It's about looking at all these, looking at your immediate conscious experience unfolding. That's where the truth lies.
Yes.
And if you build it up into something that it's, you see, because the problem is when you do realise what it is, it's utterly profound, and it is, beyond your wildest dreams. It is the answer. So it is the very thing that people put on the pedestal, and rightly. But it's also got to be attainable. It's got to be practical. You've got to be able to look into the person's eyes who's telling you that it's possible, and they're coming from an authentic place.
Yes.
And then when you have that, you have the inspiration. You have the knowledge that it is possible. I always took it that if it was the case that Alan and Jackie had finished, that I could do it too.
Yes. Well, that was the same for me. I think that's why I came here, because I just had to know. I didn't know what it was, but I knew there was something I had to know.
The funny thing, because when you realise what it is, I definitely got the sense that I'd somehow arrived there almost despite myself. I didn't know how I'd walk the Noble Eightfold Path to its completion at all. It just seemed to happen when I look back. And yet, when I knew what it was, I kind of recognised that actually everyone knows what it is. And it's what everyone is actually looking for, and they're just choosing crazy ways of going about it that are never ever going to work. They're looking for it through something that they do, that's going to give them that happiness and that peace. And when you just discover what it really is, you realise that in a way because everyone is that, actually.
Yes.
And this is where descriptions become very difficult, but everyone is that. So it's really tantalising.
It is, but quite ordinary at the same time somehow, and it's just you feel Yes,
you're finally normal.
That's it. That's yes.
You're
Exactly.
finally normal.
Yes, of course. That's how it is. That's but that's just so difficult to explain.
Yes, I mean, I like to look at it as it's not so much as something you attain, as rather it is having got rid of everything that was stopping you from seeing it for what it is. So in that sense, it is very ordinary.
Yes, that you were there anyway.
Yeah, and yet you look back and you see the extraordinary effort that had to be put in to stop ignoring,
Yes.
and how deep you had to go, and what you had to pull up in terms of your view structures, and surrender them and let
give
them
up.
go.
Yes, yes.